Welcome to Defining Moments. I'm Suzanne Quast. Here we sit down with influential people as they share the defining moments that shape their lives in a meaningful way. My next guest is Maile Pacheco. She is founder and now CEO of Beglammed, the leading on-demand beauty service. She is going to share with us how she has grown her company to now be in 28 cities, have write-ups in Forbes magazine, and to just really be a badass businesswoman. Here are her moments. So before the show started, I asked you, so what's new? Thinking it would be light and breezy. And please share with everybody what you said.
I just got promoted to CEO.
Small. And who just did a huge write-up about you?
Forbes did a feature on it.
That is so cool.
I know, it's really surreal. I was just saying how, you work through it every day and you don't realize that you were like doing big things until someone stops you and says, hey, by the way, can we feature this? This is really cool.
So how does it feel to be CEO?
Really busy. I thought I was always chasing my tail before, but now it's tenfold. So it's busy, but it feels good. I feel like more in control and really rejuvenated, and we're pivoting a little bit with the brand. So everything, it's just been awesome.
So you're pivoting with the brand. What does that mean?
So we've always been very focused on beauty services, hair, makeup, and we recently layered in nails. But now we're focusing more on our technology. So we're really building out the app. We're launching a couple new apps this winter. So stay tuned for that.
Can we know what the apps are?
Sure. So so right now we have Beglemmed's app. It's a booking platform. So we built that out. We added a bunch of new features in it. Our clients will be able to upload photos of themselves and fill out profiles and be able to communicate directly with their providers through the app. GPS tracking, so when the provider's on their way to you, they can easily see you. And then eventually layering some AR technology, which I'm really excited about.
For people who don't know, what does that mean?
So AR is augmented reality, and it's similar to, think of like a face filter in one of the apps, one of our favorite social media apps.
Oh my gosh.
But they're actually makeup or hair looks that you can try on in the app.
So you can see what it would look like ahead of time.
Yes, and then order a beauty pro to come in and do it for you at home.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. How long is this going to take?
I hope not. Technology can take a while, but we're releasing the new booking platform app in December, and then the AR stuff we're going to hit the ground running on that, and who knows how long that could take, but it's coming this year, or 2019, I should say.
Oh my gosh, and then you've also expanded to more cities too, right?
Yeah, we are now in wine country, so we're in Napa-Sonoma.
Well, I feel like that's a big deal. There's a lot of bachelorette parties.
Oh yeah.
A lot of weddings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we've been in San Francisco and the Bay Area for a couple of years now, and we were constantly sending hairstylists and makeup artists up to Napa area, and we just figured, why don't we just launch there? So, and that's kind of how our business has progressed, right? It's the clients are asking and demanding for it, and then we just launch it.
But that's okay, so how many cities are you in now?
We're now in 28 cities.
That's so cool. That's amazing. Okay, so I have to ask you, as an entrepreneur, what was the moment that the idea for Beglammed was conceived?
So I was in New York almost 5 years ago, stuck in a snowstorm, late for dinner, and a friend of mine who I was meeting was just said, download this car service. You can order a car directly to where you're standing, pay through this app, never used the car service before. And so that was the first night I ever used a ride-sharing app. At dinner that night, she was also telling me how frustrated she was about finding hairstylists and makeup artists when she travels. And I'd been in the beauty industry for almost a decade at that point. She's like, you know everybody. And I'm like, I don't have the time to connect people, but I can do it. And then a light bulb moment went off, and I thought, why doesn't someone create hair and makeup beauty services booked through an app and on demand? And 3 months later, the company was up and running, and we launched in Vegas.
3 months later, the company was up and running. That is really, for people who aren't necessarily in the technology space, that's a really big deal. I worked for 2 tech startups, and this is no small feat.
No.
What do you think has been so successful in your execution?
Diligence. like nonstop, working around the clock. It's funny because when you think of like a startup tech company, you think, oh, you're probably in some cool offices that look like Facebook or Google's campus. And no, I was in my apartment
yes.
from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or later. And it's just like one eye open on my laptop in bed, just constantly on it. And it helped that I had connections in the beauty industry prior. So recruiting the hair and makeup artists that we first started with, that was probably the easier part, but I did have to raise money and get the technology together, and we launched first with the website and then the booking platform on the app a couple months later. So we got it out pretty quickly.
And then do you mind if I ask how much did you initially raise?
The first raise was just under $1 million, which for me was a really big deal.
Yes.
Considering I had never started a company before. I was always too shy to ask for things, and my investors put in a very generous installment, and then they just kept, and to this day they're still supporting me every step of the way and continuing to inject more cash, which I'm happy about.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So you've never had to go out to other people to raise more money?
Oh, I definitely did. The great thing about the investors I have is they wanted to teach me, like, okay, yes, you got this installment of money, but you also now need to go and raise your own money. And I had to do that, pitch and fly all over the country, and met with everybody under the sun, from small firms to angel investors. I've pitched to rooms of 35 investors before, and then as little as 2 people sitting on the other side of the conference room. So I've had a lot of experience in the fundraising game, and we closed our extended C round last summer. And now we're going into our Series A next year, so that's going to be the big chunk of money to raise.
This is so crazy. Do you sometimes have to pinch yourself and you're like,
I sometimes have to slap myself, like, what's going on? Is this real life? But yeah, it's really insane. And 5 years ago, I couldn't tell you that I would be here right now. And apps on-demand apps hadn't really taken off back then yet either. So it's funny because I get asked, like, is this where you envisioned yourself? And the answer is no. I didn't have any idea that I would start an app in technology coming from the beauty industry, but it's just been awesome. Love it. What
are the things that keep you motivated and keep you going when things get tough?
So the one thing about having an independent contractor-based business is you really have to work hard to create this feeling and sense of community with all of your providers. And so for me, I've developed so many relationships with our now thousands of beauty providers, and they're so open to tell me, like, I'm a single mom, and Beglammed has given me a platform where I can work when I have childcare, or some that have health issues and they're not able to work a 9 to 5. And so that, like, really motivates me to keep me going. Just knowing that we're putting food on people's tables, and they can work when they want and where they want, and we're able to provide them income for whether it's like vacation and extracurricular, or they prioritize Beglammed and they make their full-time income for us. So that really keeps me going, knowing that I've got so many people who are relying on Beglammed and relying on me to show up for them every day.
That's so beautiful, to show up for them. Because a lot of times people, when they think of makeup or hair, there's some vanity aspect to it.
Oh, yeah.
But there is, let's be honest. Like,
red lips, like, we clearly had something going here today.
Right, we did not plan this, for the record. This is just how we showed up. But what would you say? I feel like what I love about your company is the soul and the messaging behind it. Would you say that you differentiate from other competitors in that way?
I think so, and I think a lot of it starts with our relationship with our providers. We really make them feel part of our community and our family. We call them our glam fam. Like, they really are part of our family, and because they get that sense coming from the company, and everybody that works at headquarters with us, we all kind of have the same level of respect and appreciation for all of our clients and beauty pros. So when they're working with a client, they're exuding that, and our clients are feeling this experience of, this is not just someone coming and doing my hair and makeup. They're invested. They want to know who you are, where you're going, what's going on in your life. And then that's how our clients also continue to request the same provider, so they're able to build relationships with our pros. And that's just like the vanity part of it. Yes, of course, like, we all want to look good and feel good, but we're also delivering just unforgettable experiences, whether it's on their wedding day or graduation or baby shower. Some of the most important moments of our clients' lives, we're there for them.
And I feel like as a society now, we are very experience-based.
Yeah, yeah.
And something you've talked about in other interviews is the fact that your high school counselor, career advisor, told you that there would never be, or you would never have a career in makeup.
Yeah.
Have you reached out to her and said, I have a career? You should send her the Forbes article. That's what I would do.
That's yeah. Well, I understand where she was coming from, because when I was in high school, I was an athlete, I had good grades, and we had representatives from different colleges come and speak at the school, and I was immediately intrigued by the cosmetology school, of course, and there was like makeup and hair. So I went back to my advisor and said, this is what I want to do. I want to get in the beauty industry. I want to do makeup. And I was a painter back then when I was a kid. And she was like, oh, no, your grades are good. Like, don't go into makeup. You're not going to be able to make a career out of it. I wish I could see her again and just be like, so.
How about that?
Yeah, and I took her advice, and I didn't go into the beauty industry. I went into fashion and went to FITM, the Fashion Institute downtown. Thankfully, my advisor there also talked me into going into product development, which teaches you a lot of the business aspect of business, and then also the design part of it. So I kind of meshed the two together. Then years later started Beglammed, and then here we are. So I kind of built a little bubble of hair and makeup world in my life and made it work, even though I had doubts and had naysayers in my life.
But I feel like the naysayers, you know, you hear a lot of athletes. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school team. You need a little bit of friction in order to actually grow. And do you use that to fuel you?
Yeah, I do. It's challenging, and being an athlete too, it's always a challenge, right? If someone's like, I can beat you at something, it's like, really? Let's do this. Let's at least try. Let's try it. So I have 4 sisters, and we were always competing growing up, and still are to this day. Not, you know, like we were with kids over clothes and shoes, but actually, no, that still happens. But the naysayers is kind of what motivates you. Like, I feel like I want to prove them wrong. But in a good way. So it's not like putting anybody down. It's kind of saying, I know you said I couldn't do it, but check this out. Yes,
and honestly, thank you. Maybe that's what you should do, is send her a thank you.
That's what I'll do.
Right. You heard it here. She's gonna. What do you think was the biggest failure that you had and the greatest lesson you learned from it?
Oh, geez. Okay, failure. Well, here's the one thing. I don't look at anything as a failure. I look at it as an area of opportunity to get better. And I would say when first launching Beglammed, I was eyes wide open, didn't know much about launching a company, raising money, handling finances. Like, I had a corporate background working in the beauty industry, so I understood how to allocate budgets and stick to a timeline and forecast and strategy. Yeah. But then when you're in the hot seat and it's your company, then everything's on the line. And so I would say I wish I would have known more about like the legal stuff behind starting a company and negotiating contracts. I think if I would have known more up front, I might have been smarter and made better choices that now led us down to this path. Like, we could be much farther than we are now if I had much more experience starting a business. But now, being in it for 4 years, I'm like, okay, all of those little things that I wish I would have known is now coming full circle, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that again.
Yeah, but I mean, like you said, there are opportunities for growth. They're not necessarily. And I think that's a really positive way to look at it, as opposed to I'm failing or I'm not succeeding at this.
It doesn't mean I don't feel like I'm failing, because every now and then I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And things are not going right, and it's like everything's crumbling around you. But I just have to stay optimistic and tell myself there is a light at the end of the tunnel and keep working toward it.
Do you have any mentors or people that you go to for advice, especially now that you're a CEO?
Yeah, and that's the other part of it too. When you launch a business, you feel like you're on your own. Even though I had investors and I had people around me that were helping, I just also felt like I have to make this work. It's all me. And it wasn't until about a couple years into the kind of keeping everything going with the brand, and we're almost 5 years old now. So about a couple years into it, when I started surrounding myself around much smarter people than me, who had a lot of experience in areas of the business that I was still learning. And to this day, when I've got a challenging decision to make, I'll pick up the phone and call and they're CEOs, they're VCs, they're been in the industry for a long time as well, not necessarily beauty or tech, but they just know how to scale and grow companies. So I think just as a piece of advice for any entrepreneur, have a circle around you of people that you know and trust, and some of them might not know you very well, so they'll give you just very real, legit advice. And then some of them who know you will kind of sugarcoat things or say, you could handle it if you did it like this. So just having a network of people around you that you trust, that know much more about the business than you do, is very helpful. And always have someone or some group that you kind of go to and can seek advice from comfortably.
I think that's really good advice. I have a guy friend who said, you're as good as your 5 closest friends.
Oh, that's good.
Right? So pick those.
Later.
Well, Artie Baxter, there you go. Okay, so we're getting to the final questions. And my first question is, what was your biggest aha moment and the epiphany that helped you succeed?
Let's see. Biggest aha moment was when I told myself I got this. There's a lot of doubts, right? When you start something new and you're not very familiar with it. The very first PR piece that we had ever had was in LA Confidential about 3 months after I launched the brand. And that was like validation for me. I was like, oh my gosh, okay, other people like the idea. It's not just, we were only in Las Vegas at the time. It's not just people in Las Vegas. And it was very validating. And for me, that was an aha moment where I felt like, okay, I think we can stretch this farther. Wow. And then 2 years later, we're in 23 cities. So I think that's
such a fast growth.
It was really fast.
How did you then compete with other competitors in the space?
So luckily for us, and not even luckily, it just happened to be this way. One of our top competitors had launched on the East Coast when we were launching on the West Coast, and we just dominated the West Coast. And then we inched our way over to the East, and I think because our national footprint spread so quickly within 2 years, it was hard for any other brands to really keep up with where we were. And we've seen brands fall off completely, and they're no longer in existence. And then some of our competition who started around the same time that we did, we're seeing all of our companies flourish, which is really exciting. And competition aside, the more companies in the space, the more people are aware of the service.
You're right. The more notoriety there is.
Exactly. So I let my competitors spend their millions of dollars in marketing and whatnot to get the word out there. And we're right there. You Google us, we're at the top of the page.
She's in Forbes, just saying. Okay. What was the most difficult decision you've had to make to fulfill your greater purpose?
So I come from a corporate background, and I had worked with a large cosmetic company for 8 years, and talk about like the benefits package, all of those things. When you leave, it's a hard decision. And I just remember like sobbing, like, this is it, my life is over. I don't know if I have a paycheck next week, because I was launching a new company, and I was actually really sick at the time too. So that to me was like a really, really hard moment in my life, to decide like, I'm gonna leave this 8-year career that I've had with this amazing company, super, super solid in terms of like where I was and where I was going with the brand, and things just happened, and I just made the decision to leave. Like I couldn't do it anymore. I was very sick at the time, but that to me was the moment where I had to just jump off the cliff, and you just have to go for it at that point.
But good for you. Not everybody has the balls, but to do it and to say, you know what, I need to take this leap of faith.
Yeah.
It's something that's burning inside of me, and I'm going to try.
Yeah. And I regretted it for a while when I first started.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Because I was still getting everything packaged together for Beglammed, and wasn't even sure if that was going to take off, and nobody had, as far as I knew, nobody had on-demand beauty services. So I was thinking, am I too far ahead of the game? Like, are people going to catch on to this? And then things started unfolding very quickly, and the validation started coming in from customers, from PR, and that's when I kind of felt like, okay, we could do this. And then the feeling that our clients were getting and the feedback that we would get from the providers that were working with us, they just really enjoyed it, and they enjoyed being on the platform, and the stories that we would hear from the customers and clients is just very fulfilling. So I just wanted to keep that going, and here we are 5 years later, still keeping it going.
You mentioned that you were sick. How do you mind sharing what it was?
Yeah, sure.
And how did you balance the two?
That, I mean, to this day, I still have to balance it out. And I had been really, really sick and wasn't sure what was happening with me, but I had to leave working with the corporate company I was with because I couldn't physically go into work anymore.
Oh, wow.
And I had been through about 2 years of testing, and I was finally diagnosed with Crohn's disease, which is an autoimmune disease. It targets your digestive system. And there's days that, like, I just can't even get out of bed. My joints hurt. My face is swollen. And it really made it hard for me to get to work. And that's when I decided, okay, I need to figure out what I'm going to do in my life because I cannot go to work anymore. I can't do a 9-to-5. And for the same reasons that some of our beauty pros work on our platform, they need control in their lifestyle and their career, I needed the same thing at the time. And when you start the brand again, you're working at home, in bed, 4 months.
It's kind of good timing with that.
So I was like, okay, I can work from home and be overloaded, but I just couldn't be out in the world. So, and to this day, I still am dealing with the symptoms and balancing it out. And it took me a couple of years to like really get a hold of it, but I'm feeling more confident and more healthy, and now knowing like how to manage the symptoms has been better. But ultimately, I left my corporate job and started Beglammed because I was so sick and couldn't go back to work.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing.
Of
I think
course.
that's inspiration to all of us. Okay, then 2 more questions. What are your keys to success?
Keys to success would be, again, having a network of people around you and not being too afraid to ask. And then also, more on the career side, I would say, know everything about your business, who else is out there, competitive landscape, what you need, where you want to go. I get asked a lot, like, I'm a first-time entrepreneur, what do you do?
Yes.
And it's just know everything about your business and about every competition that's out there too.
Wow.
Those would be like really, really good places to start.
There's a lot to it. And then finally, if you could define the legacy you want to leave behind in a couple of words, what would it be?
Just a good human. I just want to be a good human, whether that was being charitable, providing work for people who struggle to find it, just being a pleasant person to hang out with. Like, I just want to be known as being like a good human, a good human being.
I think you're succeeding in that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes. Okay, if you guys aren't inspired, I don't know what it will take. That was really, really great. Thank you for sharing. I hope you guys took notes. Any new entrepreneurs out there, thank you for listening. And DM us, follow us on social media. Where can I find you?
Beglammed Now is our account for the business, and then Maile Pacheco is my Instagram handle.
Thanks, guys.
Bye,